Wholesale used inventory isn't just in the back of every dealer's mind, it's in the forefront. And it's keeping most dealers and general managers up at night. That's because smart dealers and managers know if you're not paying attention to what's going on in the wholesale used car market, you're about to get run over by dealers who are paying attention. Look, interest rates are high, margins are tight, and now with tariffs, aging inventory, and flooring costs starting to really stack up, wholesale might be your biggest profit play or your biggest profit eater. Today on Follow the Money, I've got the guy who doesn't just watch wholesale shifts, he creates them himself. He helped flip the switch on digital auctions with ACV, then came back with something brand new, Dealer Club. And it's already shaken the tree. We're gonna talk strategy, we're gonna talk smart inventory management, and we're gonna talk about how to make money and win right now in a wholesale market that's moving faster than anyone's seen since the pandemic. If you wanna make money, this is the show to tune into, because this is Follow the Money. Follow the Money is brought to you by Cars Commerce, empowering local dealerships with solutions to simplify and scale their businesses. My guest today is one of the rare people, so rare, that doesn't just see the future, he actually creates it. Joe Neiman helped pioneer the modern digital auction space as a co-founder of ACV Digital Auctions. And in 2024, he launched Dealer Club, something totally different, a reputation-based dealer-to-dealer platform that's built on trust, accountability, and smarter transactions. Over 900 dealers have already signed on. Cars Commerce just acquired it, and hear me now, dealers. If you're sleeping on Dealer Club, if it's not even on your radar, get ready because you're about to get lapped by your competition. My friend Joe, welcome to Follow the Money.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on.
It's great for you to be here, Joe, because used cars, as you know, especially in the wholesale market, used cars are always like a myth, always like a thing that like everybody has to participate in, but very few actually know what's going on. It's almost like there's an Oz somewhere pulling all the, I think the Oz is you, actually, Joe. Are you, tell me right now, are you actually Oz behind the scenes pulling all the levers on what's actually going on out there?
I can't see beyond today what's going to happen. All I know how to do is create platforms that help dealers adjust and, be on the cutting edge so that they can adapt.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. Let's get into the show because dealers came here for the information because they want to make money, and you are helping dealers who are making money all over the country, and that's what it is that they want to follow. So let's talk about what's like really going on in the wholesale market. So Joe, how is the wholesale auction market different today than it was just 24 to 36 months ago?
That's a big question. Obviously these tariffs are throwing a wrinkle in things, but I think the important thing for us to remember is if we take a step back, it's always something. It's always going to be something that changes used car values, and whether it has to do with new cars or whether it has to do with things like cash for clunkers that goes and removes a whole bunch of valuable cars from the market, it's always going to be something. So really, instead of complaining about those realities, which is easy to do, we need dealers to be empowered with solutions so that they can be right, up against the edge as fast as they can, agile and able to adapt to the changing marketplace. Those are the dealers that consistently win. The ones that are a couple steps behind, those are the ones that get hurt in situations like this.
I absolutely love that perspective, Joe. I love it. Like there's always going to be something, no matter what. It seems like there's always going to be a challenge. There's always going to be a roadblock, an obstacle, no matter what. Some of them, to be quite honest, we create for ourselves, almost like we need a roadblock and we need a challenge. But Joe, right now, there's real challenges that are going on. We've got rising floor costs. We got some dealers are starting to suffer with some aging inventory. We got price softening in some segments, yet we got price jumps in others. How should dealers be rethinking their wholesale strategy right now?
I like to think in terms of retail. I was a retail used car dealer for a lot of years before I went headfirst into the auction business. So I understand the psyche of the independent car dealer. I understand the psyche of the new car dealer and how they manage their used car department. I think the saving grace for any dealer is to be obsessive about their inventory turn time. The more obsessive you are about that, the less exposure you have to these market swings. If you're playing in today's market, call it the past 2 weeks to 4 weeks, you can't get hurt too bad. But if you're playing in with cars that you purchased or acquired 2 months, 3 months ago, you've got a lot of exposure. When dealers ask me for help, I ask first, what is your turn time? And they'll give me a number. Oh, it's about 60 days. And then I try and go into every piece of why is it 60 days? And are they overpricing them wrong? Are they merchandising them incorrectly or not optimally? Is their service department backed up? Because all these things are working against their ability to be agile and to be able to flex with the latest news, whether it's good news, bad news. Any news is going to change things. We live in a volatile industry, and that's that's the path we've chosen. Your ability to act quickly is your safety net and your opportunity.
Joe, I got to ask a question. As I'm listening to you say that, I'm picturing the dealer's mind, the dealer's face in my mind when you say, hey, what's your turn time now? And they say 60 days, and you say, why is it 60 days? I can just see their face. I'm really not sure, right? Now, I just made that up in my head, but am I accurate in that guess?
Yeah,
Joe?
I think so. I mean, I know my turn time when I was a dealer was in the low 20s, and that was date of acquisition on the auction block, on the slip, transport back to the dealership, through the shop, listed and sold over the curb and paid for, was about 22 days on average. We were doing about over 100% inventory turn. And that might be too fast for some people, but it worked for me. And what you quickly figure out is you're not waiting for the right customer that needs to come along. You're pricing these things to market. You have multiple buyers that want that car. You have velocity. And when you have that, your whole operation has energy behind it, has momentum. And I think about marketplaces and momentum and velocity, but even an individual dealership has its own velocity. It creates like an aura around it. So your consumers or your potential consumers, they typically study your dealership for sometimes weeks or months before they just stumble in and buy a car. That's been my experience. And I've lived that experience. I figure out who I want to do business with before I go and do business. And I had customers tell me that before too. They'd say, oh, I watched a couple of your cars, but then they sold so fast. And then I really got focused. And then when another truck came up that you guys had, I knew I had to strike quickly and buy it. Talk about a different dynamic. You're not negotiating with that customer. They're trying to make sure that they can buy that car, as opposed to giving them leverage to go and say, well, I know it's been aging on your lot.
Joe, what an idea to create urgency by actually doing what you're supposed to do, which is to sell cars. I mean, whoa, like, are we really serious here? Like you can actually create urgency just by doing what it is that you're supposed to do every day. Am I right over here? Or am I, or does it, I'm making this way too simple?
Consumers stalk websites. I'm guilty of doing this. And then when a car that they thought about buying disappears and gets marked as pending or marked as sold, they feel that like you took something away from them.
Like, I missed that one, right? Yeah.
And they're not going to miss the next one. That's a good thing.
That's a very good thing. You said just a moment ago, talking about like the right customer and stuff. And, this sparks an idea in my mind, because everybody talks about the right car, the right time, the right price, the right customer, right? But what are the mistakes that you see most dealers making with trades and with acquisitions when it comes to that right car, right price, right customer thing?
Yeah. I'd say a lot of mistakes, but I want to change that and say a lot of opportunities. And I really do mean that. Dealers are too selective with the inventory that they're trying to take from customers.
What do you mean too selective? Like, break that down a little bit for me.
Okay, sure. So it's either a great car that they can easily visualize putting on their retail lot, or it's outside of their area of expertise or outside of what they like. It's a brand they don't like. That could be narrowed down to the individual used car manager in the seat going, oh, I don't want one of these. I lost money on one of these last month. So a real personal kind of decision, right?
Yeah.
And that's not great, right? What you need quality exit strategies, but you want to be able to buy anything and everything. So you want to open the aperture as wide as possible, but then you can't put lowball offers on on cars just because you don't like what the car is. You still got to be able to show up, because otherwise you'll embarrass yourself with that customer. You still got to be able to show up with intent to try and acquire that inventory.
It may sound a little common for me to say this, or very like, sophomorish maybe, but you're there to do business, not buy cars you like. You're not buying these cars for yourself. Like, these aren't going to your driveway at home. We make the joke in retail all the time, like, hey, these things ain't trophies, but maybe we should pull whoever the used car buyer is into this conversation as well. And would you agree, a lot of my dealers will they'll use the phrase like, my used car buyer plays God with my checkbook. Do you agree with that saying, or do you think that that's just something that's like kind of sour grapes?
It's probably sour grapes in that situation, but I do think that the used car buyers they're empowered with a lot of responsibility. They live and die by their decisions. I think the best thing you can do is try to empower them to have really good exit strategies, whether it's retail or wholesale, because then they can make better informed decisions. They make these kind of trophy decisions like, oh, I know I can sell that because I like it. Dial in too much on certain inventory, and then they're squeamish about other inventory only because they either don't have experience in it, or they don't know what to do with it if they ended up with it. So it's actually fear. And part of the challenge with car dealers, me being one of them, is we never want to admit our weaknesses. We've got a lot of ego. And so it makes it tough to have honest, vulnerable conversations. It's hard for me to go and say, oh, I really don't know the exotic car market, or I really don't know trucks because I've worked in a Honda store for most of my life. Nobody wants to admit that, but that's reality.
There's no room for the ego really in business, because we need to transact. We need to, need to generate profit. We need to make money, because we have a whole slew of people that are depending on us to do that. Paychecks come from that money, So Joe, let's shift just for a second. Let's talk about Dealer Club for just a moment here. For the folks that haven't used Dealer Club yet, please tell us, what is it, and how is it not just like another auction platform? We know there's others out there, right? But what is it that makes Dealer Club like really, really stand out? What makes it different?
Dealer Club is truly a reputation-based wholesale auction platform. So what got lost in the transition from physical auctions to digital auctions was the context and the color around who is actually bringing that car to market, who's actually the seller, what's their backstory, what's their reputation. The simplest example I can kind of bring to make it very, very clear is take the same exact 60-inch flat screen TV and put it on a shelf at Best Buy, or have it fall off the back of a truck and being sold by someone in an alley. It's worth two different amounts, and there's a good chance that you won't even buy it for any amount in the back alley.
I'm not buying anything out of no back alleys. So I don't know. That's not me.
But it's the same TV.
But what happens if something goes wrong, Joe? I'm not going to see that guy ever again. God knows that.
Right. So I've been going to car auctions since I was a teenager. And what I learned through a lot of painful lessons along the way is you figure out who you can trust, and you figure out who you can't. And those same dealers, those same characters, it's like the cars like organically disseminate into the different hands. The decent cars come from decent sellers, and the questionable cars come from questionable sellers. It's the natural way that the deck unfolds. But what we need to see as buyers is we need to be able to see who's actually bringing that car to market. Because what used to happen to me is I would venture out, I'd go to a new auction, and the only way I would learn who I can trust and who I can't is by getting lucky and making some decent smart buys, and then getting kind of stabbed in the back by making some mistakes from people that I won't do business with again. So the whole idea with Dealer Club is we're going to make it very clear about who that seller is. Buyers and sellers, they rate each other. You can see what's the reputation, and the cream rises to the top. And the beautiful thing here too, Frank, is that just like my Best Buy and back alley, example with the television, the same exact car, down to the same VIN, is worth more money from a reputable seller. Like, kind of the historic way of trying to get more for a car is to negotiate with the seller, when it doesn't bring enough money because your reserve was too high, and to try and haggle and to try and put the car on 4 different platforms and manage it across 4 different platforms and see which platform it, got the lightest CR and they missed half the damage on, and hope that it would do more there because it was poorly disclosed. That's a fool's errand, in my opinion. The best way to do it is to lean in on one platform and develop a reputation and a strategy. That way you've got an audience of bidders who show up to your auction whether it's a digital lane or a physical lane, and they're there to bid and they've got no fear and they just want to pay and buy the car. And that's
Now,
what Dealer Club is all about creating.
how do you handle when there's an issue with the vehicle? Frame damage, body damage not disclosed, something like that? Because we all know that's the used car manager or the general manager's nightmare. Because all this does is just open this monstrous can of worms, chasing down an auction, going through disputes, arbitration, all this kind of stuff. How is that handled in Dealer Club?
So we handle it between the buyer and the seller directly. And a lot of times that's all they want. They don't want a middleman to try and cast judgment and determine who did what. What the dealer usually seeks is put us together and let us work it out. And that's what we do. And we moderate it, and it works beautifully. See, what the screwed up thing here is with these other platforms, they've unintentionally created this dynamic where the arbitration department is the punching bag, and they're getting punched from all sides. They're getting punched from buyers who know that if they hit them, they can just exploit money, right? They're getting punched from sellers who sell underhanded cars and slide stuff past the inspectors, and then their inspectors miss things too. It's too much of a web to untangle. So that's the snafu that they found themselves in, and it's really kind of impossible to back away from that. What we found on Dealer Club is that we just don't end up with these kind of nitpicky issues, because you can see this guy has a 4.9 out of 5-star rating. And honestly, if a couple little things were missed on the car, as a buyer, I value buying cars long-term from this person because it was 95% accurately represented. I'm not going to go and torture them. Why would I embarrass myself? They might never sell me a car again. So it's what we've really worked hard on doing is creating incentives and guardrails that lead dealers down the right path. And it's worked out beautifully. And on the flip side, we have sellers that have missed some things. They miss a transmission. And the buyer gets the car and says, hey, the transmission's bad. I don't want the car. And the seller says, you're right. Let me just take the thing back. And then that same buyer is buying and bidding.
Joe, that's simple. Just take the car back.
Because they value the long term. We've changed the paradigm here where they go, I want this buyer bidding on every one of my cars. I don't want to just piss them off, tell them to leave, tell them I don't care about them. I mean, we give them the choice, but they know that the reputation's involved and that there's a better way of handling it. And so they act accordingly. And the fascinating thing about it too is it's the same people that will go and behave differently on other marketplaces. And that's okay. We're not judging them, but we know that when you have like a country club, you conduct yourself at a higher level of morals and ethics than you do when you're at McDonald's.
Right. Or out in that back alley buying the TV, right? From the guy in the messed up truck.
Wholesale is not a problem. It's the biggest sleeping opportunity in a dealership, but you've got to understand how to maximize on it. And that's what we're looking at. We pay the dealer, and you get this lasting effect of a reputation on our platform. And that reputation adds incremental value to every single car that you sell.
Absolutely. I can see the benefit. The benefit in this is clear to me, and I'm sure by dealers watching this, they can start to see the benefit as well. But Joe, let's give them a little bit more benefit, right? Let's give them a little bit more information. And we're going to go down the road, the hot topic right now, right, Joe? The T word, okay? Tariffs. The tariffs are here. They're not a rumor. They're absolutely for real. Let me hit you with this question. As a former dealer as well, what should dealers be thinking about right now? I'm talking about like right this second. What should they be thinking about right now as those prices begin to like ripple through the wholesale market?
I think I just go back to my fundamentals, and that is like, you've got to stay in today's current market. And if it makes sense to dump some inventory and cash out of some stuff that you're either ahead of the curve, the value went up on it because of these tariffs, great, do it and restock with other inventory. Consumers are going to be slower to understand how this affects the value of their cars. So there should be some buying opportunity there. And don't be afraid to take those opportunities and take a car directly from a consumer and wholesale it and make $1,000 or $2,000. Profit is profit.
That's right.
And this is instantaneous profit. So there's a lot of times where a dealer buys the wrong car from a consumer, and it's only the wrong car because it's the wrong car for their dealership. That's right. Okay.
Get rid of it.
Get rid of it.
Get rid of it. These things are not trophies, right?
That's right. That's right. So don't try and force the wrong car through your service department, wait 3 weeks, argue with your service writer over how to get that car shopped, then put it on your lot and not know how to merchandise it. Just wholesale it. make your money, move on to the next one, keep them moving.
Nothing wrong with doing that. And especially, there's no shame in doing that either. I think there's a lot of used car managers. They almost feel ashamed as though as if they can't retail the car. There's that ego thing. If they can't
Yes.
retail the car themselves, oh, well, is there even a definition of wholesale unit anymore, Joe?
It varies per dealer, but let's feed that ego. Let Mr. Used Car Manager, why not be the world's best wholesaler then too? You can be great at retail, but why not be excellent at two things? Instead of just being the world's best retailer and then a failure at wholesale, and the thought that sending a car to wholesale is a failure. It's not a failure at all. It could be your biggest opportunity. There's no commissions to pay out on it. It's instantaneous turn. We're paying you to sell the thing. It's all upside. And you have this opportunity now to cultivate a new following of customers and a new loyal following of customers. A really cool thing about wholesale is you do repeat business with people. Even though it's digital, even though it's nationwide, it's the same people buy cars from the same people.
This whole this whole notion of like wholesale is almost like a dirty word. I don't know about you, Joe. In my time, I've met a lot of guys who were wholesalers, right? That there wasn't nothing dirty about them. I mean, they were so clean, they made everybody else around them look dirty, if you know what I'm saying. If you know what I mean, right? Like
I know what you mean.
they did very, very well. And I think we have a lot of dealers who are like, they don't make moves. They don't make moves. They wait and they're like, well, maybe this will happen. Maybe someone will show up. I had a dealer say to me, about 2 weeks ago, it's like, we're talking about turn and everything like that, but I had somebody show up and buy a car that was 400 days old. And I'm like, you had a car that was 400 days old? Okay, Jesus smiled, and the car was sold. It was sold retail, but you can't count on that type of thing. Let's take all this and wrap it up. For dealers who haven't made a move yet, right? That are sitting there and they're being really passive. They're like, okay, well, I'm not gonna dump out on wholesale. Let's see how this all rides out. Let's be patient. You've heard all these things a million times before, Joe. You've heard them all a million times. You may have even said one or two of them in your mind really quick and then caught yourself, right? What do you say to that dealer who's running the risk of staying passive right now?
You will get past. The worst decision you can make is making no decisions. You got to take action. You got to move. And wholesale, whether it's with Dealer Club or any other platform, and I think dealers should use all these platforms and they should figure out which one works best for them. But wholesale is the bleeding edge of the car business. Guys like me call it the real car business. I just think dealers need to look at this. Like you said before, they've thought of wholesale as being dirty, or I like to say they thought of it as a problem. It's the biggest opportunity, but there is a learning curve. And what we're trying to do with things like Dealer Club and other online auctions is we're just trying to shorten that learning curve. We're trying to make a better platform so you can get in there, you can figure out the landscape. You don't have to get stabbed in the back like I did by bad dealers who, just were trying to take advantage. But you got to be there. These dealers that appraise trade-ins and they only look at one value on a screen, they're missing the boat. They really need context. They really need reps under their belt. And that's how you just become smarter. That's how you become a better operator of your used car department.
Friends, here's the deal. Wholesale used to be where you dumped all your problems, okay? But now it might be the only lane left to move fast, to move smart, and to make money without playing any games, and honestly, without any problems. And Dealer Club, my friends, this is not a platform. This is a strategy. Okay, it's reputation, speed, efficiency, right? Profitability, all baked into one spot. Joe just laid it out for us. Move the right cars, know who it is that you're doing business with. If you don't know who it is, you've got reputation scoring to be able to lean back on. And friends, stop handing your margins, okay? Stop handing away all of your margins to flooring interest, to age buckets, right? This is the new wholesale playbook. This is it. And it starts with being bold, with being fast, and getting on the platforms that give you the control, like Dealer Club. Joe, any parting words, any final words for everybody watching?
Yes, I would say this. I think we all sit there and we watch the big corporate, publicly traded companies, and I won't name them, but we go, oh my gosh, how can they pay X, Y, and Z for this car? The reason they're able to pay more than you're comfortable paying is because they have optimized their channels for where they're going to go with that car. Whether they're going to retail it or whether they're going to wholesale it. You know, the two guys whose names begin with C have done
I was about to say, how does CarMax do it? Right.
But you just have to look at them. What they've done in wholesale, you know, one of them bought a Dessa, right? The other one owns their own auction process and physical auctions, and now that's all digitized. But they've done such a good job of doing the right things that they get more for the same car than you will. And that's why they can pay more. They can look at that car and they go, we know we have a loyal audience of wholesale buyers that will simply pay more than the next guy. And that's why they're able to do it. So like, instead of just complaining about those guys and the market share that they're taking, be thankful that they've shown us the path. They've shown us the light. They have a reputation for how they handle wholesale. Let's follow that. And with a platform like Dealer Club, you're literally empowered today to go start creating an incredible reputation for yourself and get more for the same car. Because when you take the risk out and you take the fear out for the buyers, they'll pay more. They don't want to pay more, but they will, and they do. So like, we just got to understand the psychology here, lean into it, and give them what they want.
Absolutely. They pay more, and not only do they pay more, they do it each and every single day. It's not a one-off type of thing. And obviously, they must be knowing what they're doing if they're paying more. Joe, I so appreciate you bringing it, my friend. And to everyone watching, remember this: if you're still running your used car strategy like it's 2019, you've got to make a change, and you've got to make it fast if you want to make money. And you obviously want to make money. That's why you watch this show. This is Follow the Money. And my friends, we will see you next time.